Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. When I go on YouTube, I'm usually looking for other content and content creators, just to learn from all of you guys. Uh, and it's usually what I find is modern stuff, modern cards. And a lot of content creators talk about baseball, basketball or football. And I don't have any problem with that because I don't really know a whole lot about modern stuff. My forte really is vintage. But with that, I thought it would be kind of really neat to talk to you guys today about alternative sports and alternative sports cards. And I have a bunch of the stuff here that I want to kind of show you and then go over it. It may be a longer video, but we'll see what happens. So the first sport I want to show you is from golf. So um, let me see if yeah, here we go. I got a lot of the stuff here. So the first card is from the 1914 Marzuma set, and this is actually um, what is it? Harry Varden. Okay, so you guys obviously know who Harry Varden is. He's one of the greatest golfers of his generation, and he's really primarily known around New England for the 1913 U.S. Open, otherwise known as the greatest game ever played. This set is a set of 50 cards, and I think there's only maybe about 20 to 25 players in it. Varden has actually two cards in the set, and I'll show you the back of it as well. If this sometimes this camera really sucks, guys, so I'm sorry about this, but that's the back. Unfortunately, Francis Ouimet is not in this set. Neither is Ted Ray, but you do have Harold Hilton and a bunch of other Hall of Famers, and it's really kind of a set where you might really want to grab just for those Hall of Famers. There may be cheaper alternatives to the 1901. I think it's Copes. Could be wrong about that. There is a 1900 Copes set, but there's also a 1901 Odgins set. It's black. It's a black border set, and that's a general. Um, it's it's made up of a general interest, is what I'm trying to say. Those cards are actually um, kind of more on the expensive side. So as an alternative, you could go for these. Um, and then so with that, I'm going to show you the Francis Ouimet. So this is actually a 1931 Churchman. Men, is it? Okay, prominent golfers. And so Francis Ouimet really has kind of two cards that I'm aware of during his playing career, and this is one of them. And so really, what really kind of blocked him from receiving more than two championships was uh, this guy right here, which is Bobby Jones. Now, Bobby Jones actually has he's in another set as well. This is the 1931 prominent golfers. It's actually it's the same it's the same card. So these cards right here can be a little bit confusing because there's a 1928 set called Men of the Moment, and these are actually pretty great alternatives to if you're looking for Francis Ouimet. Well, you have this card, and then you have a 1926 Spalding Champions, which I've only seen once in my hobby career, and that is a very expensive card, and it's quite rare. So he's in that set too. Um, Obviously, if it wasn't for Francis Ouimet, guys like me would probably never be able to play golf. Although my golf game really sucks. I'm more of a mini golf champion, if you will. And that's where I kind of stop at golf. I do love golf very much. I love to watch it. Um, as I say, I'm not good at it, but um, it is a fun sport for me. If you really want to get into modern golf, the 1981 and 1982 Don Russ set has a lot of Hall of Famers to choose from. And I don't have one here with me, but I do have both of those sets. They are pretty cheap. Um, Again, these cards can be had uh, pretty affordably, which is pretty good for the average collector who is looking out for their wallet. Bobby Jones, again, he has other cards out there. He's in a 1926 Lambert and Butler set, which is his rookie. And I don't have one here. I do have one. Um, but the problem with the Lambert and Butler card is that there was also one made in 1927, and on the back of it, it has a little bit of a different design. And from what I've heard from other collectors and dealers, is that that can be confusing, but uh, it's also that it's got the same photograph for both of those issues. Um, the thing with Bobby Jones is that he remained mostly he never went pro until the very end of his career. And he's got a 1934 um, Gaudi Sport King as well, and that's a very expensive card. So if you're looking for an alternative for that particular card, you can go with any one of these. He does have a few other cards. Again, he's very popular and he's pretty expensive um, for the mainstream issues. So um, that's that. And then um, Harry Varden also has a bunch of cards as well. Um, it just so happens that that's one of my favorite Harry Varden cards, and I do like Harry Varden quite a bit. The stylist, as they called him. Um, the one thing I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that 1913 U.S. Open. And then Ted Ray is also very popular as well, and he's pretty cheap. As far as Ted Ray is concerned, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He does have a few cards, as I said, and he's again a very popular guy. I don't know if he'll ever make the Hall of Fame, but as far as I'm concerned, he's already a Hall of Famer. And um, that's that. And now uh, I also wanted to show you too another set of golfers. So the it's upside down. So this is the 1939 golf set from J Player or John Player, and it's basically a how-to. It's oversized, as you guys can see, and this is the back. I really wish this camera would work better than it does, just kind of focusing in on the cards and not on me. But um, this set can be had for about 175, 200. Again, most of my collection I paid um, pretty cheaply, and I've had it for a long time. I've been collecting since I was a teenager, since I was 14 years old, in vintage. So, um, what I've noticed over the years is that the rise in your modern, or I should say modern cards, but your baseball and football and all that, your regular issued vintage cards um, has gone up substantially, which has kind of caused me to look at these cards because If I were to start my baseball vintage collection over again now, I wouldn't be able to afford it, which is too bad. You know, this has happened before, and I'm not just saying that with me. The hobby has seen this before. Um, as a sidetrack, as a side notice, um, back in the late 1970s and 1980s, the early 80s, there were a lot of collectors who were basically complaining that a lot of their cards that they had as kids were pretty unaffordable by the time they got back in. And the, the one thing that's kind of universal to all collectors, generationally, I can pronounce that. I think sometimes English is a second language to me. Anyway, every generation of collectors has kind of had the same story where they started collecting as kids, and then college happens, uh, or high school, and then they find wives and girlfriends, and then they have kids, and then they're like, oh wait a minute, I want to get back into my card collection. I want to start cards again, collecting, and then they do it with their kids, which is a great thing. And then once they get back in, they find out that it's a sticker shock, and they don't realize just how much these cards that they had as kids have gone up. That's not true in all cases, but I do see a lot of over the last probably 2 to 3 years that we've got a lot more um, people in the hobby, either who were in it before and did their own thing, or came back and with their kids or otherwise, and now we're here, and there's a lot of people who have come back in the hobby in the last 3 years, which is I think a good thing, but it's also kind of made them think that this hobby is really very expensive. And this right here is kind of showing you that it is not. It is a hobby that you can partake in where you're not going to break the bank. So, um, anyway, getting back to getting back to golf. Um, this set again, uh, it is it, it is a set that you can grab on occasion. I see a lot of it online. I don't see a lot of the stuff at shows, especially this set. This set has its drawbacks. One of the drawbacks is the size. So I think it's I want to say it's a 25 card set. I don't have the rest of it here, but I'm pretty positive it's a 25 card set. The drawback is that if you're looking for Hall of Famers, well, you're kind of out of luck. You only have one, and that's Harold Henry Cotton. He's a three-time Open champion from 1934, 37, and 1948. He is in the Hall of Fame, and he's the only Hall of Famer in this set. There are a few other guys that I'm aware of that are stars. Percy Alice is one of them, and Richard Burton, I believe, is another. Archie Compton. But then again, I actually study these players as well, so I'm very familiar with a lot of them. And then the Henry Cotton. I'll show you what it looks like. It's this card right here. Jeez, it's this card right here, and it's quite nice. Cotton does have a lot of cards out there, so he's not in short supply, and he did have a pretty long career as well. So um, that is that, and I'm just gonna put that there, and then I'm gonna show you another set. Um, and this is actually a set of, I believe, again, yeah, 25. Um, they are sport Olympians, and this is from 1910. This is the 1910 National Licorice Company, and this is actually a very rare set. I'm not familiar with anybody who has really a complete set. The I think they're out there, but I don't really know of too many people who actually collect the set. Um, I actually it took me about 10 years to get the three cards that I needed to complete it, which kind of tells you the rarity. I actually really enjoy the artwork, and you can see some of it right here. The artwork is pretty fantastic, and it's the one thing that drew me to this set. The thing is, if you're gonna collect these cards, doing so individually again is really tough, just because of the rarity. The other thing too is that in 1910, the American this is not an American caramel. I mean, sorry, American tobacco set, but in about 1910, 1911, the American Tobacco Company was it was uh, basically going through a monopolization process uh, where the federal government was going after them at the Supreme Court level. Now, one thing about American tobacco is that they just didn't have tobacco companies. They had other companies, such as candy companies or licorice companies. They needed a lot of sugar and a lot of molasses and a lot of licorice for their products. A lot of people don't really kind of understand that. They also had a monopoly on licorice, which is really weird. Um, but it caused other companies to severely decrease their supply of licorice. From what I've heard, licorice is really the redheaded stepchild of the candy industry. It's everything that you wouldn't want in a candy, I guess, or the leftovers, and they just put star anise in the licorice, and that gives it its flavor. And it's kind of like an antiseptic, if you will. Uh, Stuff that I really don't touch. Although I am a very big fan of candy. Um, so so licorice did have a its own monopoly, which was broken up at the same time as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why these cards are so rare. You don't really see them at shows. I think I've seen maybe one or two at a show, but that's about it. So, if you are going to go for that set, just a word of caution that they will be, for the most part, in horrendous condition. They can be, and they can be expensive as well. And then it's really a niche market as well, as I think all of the stuff I'm going to show you is. But on the flip side, the artwork is fantastic, and I'll show you the back of it as well. So if you can see that right there, the back, and then you can see the artwork, and it is a great set. So I do highly recommend that. All right, so I can show you something else. Um, Horse racing. So I've been a fan of horse racing since my father took me to my first race when I was 5 years old, the Suffolk Downs. And what I found out later on was Suffolk Downs had a very famous race in 1940 with Seabiscuit. And I'm still looking around for a copy of a program or a ticket from that race. In fact, I think Seabiscuit was there twice in about 1939 or 1940 or so. Uh, but the thing with horse racing that I really enjoy is just the speed and just what these jockeys actually do. If you think about it, if you're about 3.5 to 4 feet, or I'm going to say 5 feet or under, uh, and you're on something that has four legs and is like a rocket, man, that is really impressive. And the thing is, it's a dangerous sport. I think in 1939, there was about 17 jockeys who were killed on the race track itself. And then the movie Seabiscuit as well. It's actually one of my favorite movies of all time. I'd recommend it. So I'm going to show you a little bit of this stuff. The first set is from 1933. It's the Derby and Grand National winners. So this set's pretty easy to come by. It's pretty cheap as well. Um, the thing about horse racing too is between 1902 and 1910 or 1911, each state banned the parimutuel betting. Yeah, parimutuel betting. Yeah. Um, and so it was illegal. And what that did was all the gamblers uh, went over from horse racing to baseball, and that's where you get things like the 1919 World Series um, Black Sox scandal, and I've heard actually of other uh, World Series fixes and other baseball fixes as well. Because of that, so for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and that's one of them. So it actually took quite a number of years for each state to lift their ban, beginning, I believe, in about 1932 through 1940, 41 or so. Was, I think, maybe the last year that a state lifted their ban. And then, so on, what this actually did too is you do have jockeys uh, in cards from like 19 up through 1910, and then you don't have anything afterwards. And that's really too bad because there are jockeys from America, I'm sure, that I would have loved to have seen on a card. So you really don't have anything from like the 1940s, 50s, and I think even the late 30s or so. There's really nothing out there. But you'd have to actually go over to England to grab a set of jockeys or horses, um, or Australia as well. And anyway, so this set right here is a perfect example. So this is the 19, I believe it's 1939. I think it's from 1939. I've heard 1938 because it says it's the Wills Racehorses Jockeys of 1938. And as you can see, the artwork is really phenomenal in this set. Um, the thing with this set, for me personally, I learned a very valuable lesson. In that the one thing you don't want to do with virtually any set from England uh, or Australia is to collect them individually. It took me about 15 years to complete this set. Um, and if you're going to purchase a set, purchase it in whole. Um, and it's you will waste a lot of time otherwise. And so I wouldn't recommend it. These cards are actually um, very cheap, but I've never really seen any at a show. Actually, I've seen one batch at a show, and that was it. And I picked them up, and that was my first time ever seeing them. Um, so there's that, and then the jockeys themselves. So uh, cards of jockeys actually date back to about 1888. There's a pretty famous black jockey. I forget his name off the top of my head, but it's pretty much on every vintage collector's want list who are into that kind of stuff, or this kind of stuff. In fact, the jockeys themselves. This is from 1936, famous jockeys set from Gallagher. And you're gonna find Gordon Richards in this set, and he's actually one of the world's greatest jockeys of all time. And he's got a number of cards. I don't think I have any other. No, thought I had a few other of his cards on me. He's not lacking for cards, I'll tell you that. But um, he is one of the greatest jockeys, as I say, and he's I believe a 26 flat race champion. He's won 26 times, which is incredible. Um, and then you also have Freddie Fox in that set, a very popular jockey as well. Steve Donahue, again, one of the best jockeys of his generation. He's a 10-time flat racing champion as well. He's in this set. You have brothers Harry Ragg and Sam Ragg as well, or what? Yeah, Ragg. I just get those things confused. Uh, and they're very popular as well. But the for me it was the artwork that really got me. And I do love horse racing, so this was a no-brainer for me. And I'll show you what the back of them looks like. So, all right, there we go. All right, that's cool. All right, so you can kind of see that better. Now that set actually has a an album. So you're gonna see a lot of these sets from England have albums, and for that one, uh, it comes in something like this, where the the collector could purchase a separate album, and this one it looks something like that. And as you can tell, not all albums are like this. This one's different where the card just slides in. There's like a little tab right there. Um, but that's not always the case. And there's also an index too. And actually, that's very important. Which is really kind of strange. You actually know, I haven't seen this one in a while, but you actually know how many cards are in the set, but you don't know who is in it unless you wrote it down, which apparently somebody did. And they also wrote down 12/9/1936, um, which is kind of nice. But uh, again, it's a pretty nice thick album as well. And there's a trademark which I gotta find, and then Gallagher Limited, Virginia House, London, and Belfast. So, um, as they say, that is that. Um, and then the next is, let's see what I can show you. Oh, okay. All right, let's go with boxing. All right. So, boxing is getting a lot more popular now than it was before. And of course, there are cards dating back to 1887 in the Allen and Ginter set. And I do have a few of those. I don't have any here to show you. I'm sorry, but this actually happens to be John T. I'm sorry, John L. Sullivan. Yeah, John T. Sure, John L. Sullivan, um, who is actually this is his last year as a boxer. Believe it or not, he does have something in the 1887 set, and he did a few rounds in 1909, which is his last year. He's a Boston boy, and obviously he's in the Hall of Fame as well. His cards can be kind of expensive, including this. So, when I actually was in my probably my early 20s, I bought a bunch of these, and these cards were really cheap at the time. And I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was, but it's obviously pre-pandemic. Um, when I was out purchasing these cards, I could get them for about $7 or so, between $5 to $7. That is no longer the case. They have gained popularity quite a bit, but um, there's actually two sets that look almost identical on the front. Uh, there's a 1908, 1909, which is this right here, and in the back of it, you're going to see this. Let me see if it will. All right, so that ain't working out too well again. Thank you, camera. So it actually says pugilists and wrestlers, and this is number 13, John Lawrence Sullivan. So that took me quite a while to try to track down a copy. Um, and then on top of it, let me see, there are several Hall of Famers in that set, and then the other set, which is from 1915. And I don't think I actually have one of those with me, but it is it's gonna look completely different on the back. I forget right off the top of my head. I think it just says famous boxers. I could be wrong. Anyway, so you all know who this is just by blurry photo alone. This is Jack Johnson. And Jack Johnson actually has a number of cards. Again, he's he's not rare, but it's the price tag that's going to get you in the end. And this is probably good condition at best, but I'd rather have a card in good condition than no card in no condition. So I had to go with this, and I really have no qualms about it whatsoever because it was at the right price at the right time. And you don't see this card often. I never see these cards at shows, um, but I know they're out there. Majority of these cards I think are found online. So again, the thing is that you see Jack Johnson in a bunch of cards from America at the time, and the thing with boxing at the time when this card was issued was that boxing was illegal in a lot of states, and particularly in New York. Um, from what I've read in the newspapers, it was it was banned in either uh, an entire state or it was banned in a section of a state, like a city or a precinct. And so it was kind of all over the place. And then in New York, particularly, it was banned in 1911, and then it was brought back through a law that also governed um, boxing as well. You could actually go to jail for boxing, prize fighting. So it was also, I think, banned in like 1917 through 1920, and then again in like 1929. So it has a history of being legal and then not legal. But I do love boxing quite a bit. It is probably my second love in the hobby as far as collecting is concerned. Baseball is my first. Um, for me, understanding baseball is like understanding how to breathe. It's that easy. I still kind of uh, try to learn as much as I can about these sports, although it's not easy. So, and then the other boxer I want to show you from that set is another guy I'm sure you're all very familiar with, and that is this guy right here. It's a very blurry picture of Abe Attell. So you're familiar with Abe Attell, I'm sure, because of the Black Sox scandal. He's the middleman or the go-to guy between the ball players and Arnold Rothstein. Uh, and I can get into Arnold Rothstein all day, but I want to kind of stick with uh, these cards right here. So, Abe Patel is actually in the Hall of Fame on his own right, um, even though he's banned from baseball. Uh, he has a lot of cards out there, so he's not rare. Um, this card probably is one of his his top cards that fans and collectors will go for, and it's a very nice card too. By the way, the artwork and the lithography in these cards are just out of this world. Um, so uh, boxing really is on as the hobby is concerned. Um, you have a lot of boxing cards from the 1910s and the 1920s and the 1930s, but you have very few of those cards after World War II. So you do have a set from D. Cummings and Son from 1947, and that set has Joe Louis in it, and it has Rocky Graziano as well. Now, I don't have that Graziano with me right now. I kind of wish I pulled it out to show you guys, but Graziano was a nasty, nasty boxer. Not the friendliest guy in the world either. He's someone I obviously wouldn't want to tick off in the ring, and he's only really found in two sets. The Cummings set, which is from Scotland, is probably your best choice for that particular boxer because he's ended up suing or tried to sue the Leaf Corporation in 1948 when they issued his card. Now, that card is famous because there's only five, I believe, five copies known to exist, um, and it's actually a good example of a very rare card that is uh, it the expense of it is not what it should be concerning its rarity. Now, uh, obviously the T206 Wagner, I think one just sold for what $6 million or more, something like that. Uh, and there's like 57 copies known, but the Graziano there's about five, and it hasn't even broke the $1 million mark, or probably I think it's still maybe quarter of $1 million. So um, it's really uh, it's really strange. Anyway, so boxing is great. The last really great boxing set that I'm aware of, vintage, is the 1951 Topps ringside, and in that one you've got um, just a ton of Hall of Famers and short prints in it as well. The um, Irish Murphy card is he's not a Hall of Famer, but Irish Bob Murphy, Irish Bob, he's the go-to in that set. And then you also have cards of Rocky Marciano and Joe Louis as well, and I think that's Joe Louis's last year as far as I'm concerned. He was kind of on the downslide by 1951 anyway. So the another set I want to show you is uh, this right here. This is the 1936 J Players tennis set, and so I'm actually gonna show you. Let me see. This is a really neat set actually. Uh, this set is chock full of Hall of Famers, um, and as you can see, it's got the contents right here, and then um, the other set I showed you has little lips for the cards, and this actually does not. So um, what's really interesting is that on the backs of these, and I have a full set, in fact, another set too, because they are so cheap. Um, that I think what people used to do was it says that you can that the backs of it are adhesive. So I think what they used to do was get a little bit of water and then put on the back of the card and then paste them in that way. I'm not sure. Uh, Contrary to popular belief, I was not around in 1936 to know these things, so I do the best that I can with what I have and what my eye tells me. And sometimes my eye is wrong, but um, this set is really fantastic because, like I said, it does have a lot of Hall of Famers in it, as you can see. I don't know what the value of this set is if the cards are pasted in compared to individual. This is a set that you can complete. Um, I wouldn't complete it individually. That would be a nightmare. It's a 50 card set, and again, it's a how-to set as well. But you do have Don Budge in it, and you have FX Shields or Frank Shields. And I'm looking around, and who else do I see? Well, you have Bunny Austin and Jack Crawford. Uh, those are pretty big names. Helen Wells Moody is also in it, and she's actually right here. And she has a lot of cards as well, and for the most part, they're pretty cheap. And so I do actually recommend for the novice to start with this set first, just because it is pretty cheap, and they made so many of these sets over in England um, that they're virtually my version of the 1987 top set. They're just as common as pigeons without all the feathers. Anyway, so that's that set, and it is a fun set. It is a fun set. I do enjoy it. Um, there are a lot of tennis players that you can grab along the way. Another one is Rene Lacoste. He's another big name, and the the reason why I know Lacoste is because of the shirt. Um, I didn't know that he was a famous tennis Hall of Famer. Uh, I wore these shirts when I was probably 10 years old, and that entire time I had no idea who the person was uh, that was designing these shirts, but it was Rene Lacoste, and he's one of the four horsemen. Um, I think that's the four horsemen. I could be wrong about that. I'm sure you guys um, in the comments could tell me. Uh, and then so this again is a men of it's the 1928 Men of the Moment, and you can see in the back here. I'll show you what that looks like. Blurry again as always. Man, at some point I'm gonna figure that one out. Anyway, um, so Rene Lacoste has a lot of cards as well. You're not going to be hard up on money either chasing his cards or most of other um, tennis Hall of Famers. Now, the thing with tennis uh, is the same as all these. You do not see a lot of American sets being issued from tennis. I do have, I think, Sears, I believe his name is, from the 1888 Goodwin Champion set, and he is in the Hall of Fame. Um, and so you do have a few, but for the most part, you're gonna have to go to either across the ocean to grab a lot of these. And tennis cards, for the most part, vintage tennis cards are they're few and far between. They're basically um, most popular in the 1920s and the 1930s. By 1947, like that's it. And then you know I think maybe 1952 Wheaties set might have a few as well. but and then I think the 1959 top flight stars as well, has I think two or three in that set, and that's kind of a difficult set. It's from my experience, that particular set can be expensive. So um, there's two more I want to get to really quickly, and so uh, cricket. So cricket is kind of a new sport for me. I just started collecting last year, and the one of the first players I researched was Don Bradman, and I've showed you this guy's on my channel before. This is a 1934. I'm gonna try this. I butcher this so badly. Uh, Alligated press. Oh God, someday I'll get that right. Anyway, uh, I actually really like this card. I love the design, and I love the colors in it. Don Bradman has a lot of cards. He's by far one of the best cricketers of all time. A lot of you guys will probably say he's a lot like he's the Babe Ruth of the sport. Um, and so he does have a lot of cards. This card in particular is going to be difficult for you guys to collect, I guess, in near mint condition. The problem is that this is authentic, which you're gonna see the majority of these cards in that condition because um, they were hand cut. But um, the other thing about this set too, in particular, is that it's the Sportsman of the World, by the way, and that's the back of it. Anyway, Max Baer is in this set, and I just actually purchased that card. Max Baer, obviously, he is a boxing Hall of Famer, and he's rated 22 of the greatest or all-time punchers in boxing. He doesn't have a whole lot of cards either, and I probably should have mentioned this before, but uh, Max Baer is very famous for a few other reasons too. He killed two boxers in the ring, Frankie Campbell and Ernie Schaff. I think one of those guys, I think Frankie Campbell, was the brother of Dolph Camilli, the baseball player, and he also uh, was the 1935 contender in against Jimmy Braddock as well. And Braddock won that. And if you haven't seen the movie Cinderella Man, I highly recommend it. Jimmy Braddock is another boxer that you're really only going to find on a card overseas in England and the Great Britain. And he's on a 1938 Churchman, I believe, or Odgins set. And yeah, and then yeah, and that's a color version. So that's a very nice card, and I think I've shown that to you guys in the past. So getting back to cricket as well, um, there are a lot of cricket cards, and cricket as a sport is second only to soccer in terms of popularity. I think it has 2.5 billion fans, which kind of blows baseball out of the water. But that doesn't really really translate very well to the hobby at all. In fact, um, there are a lot of cricket cards that are very cheap. Um, the thing is, if you don't know what you're collecting or the rarity of it, it really kind of behooves you to study. Um, and I'm still working at it. Um, and so there's another very popular cricket set, which is this right here, and this is Jack Hobbs, who is another Hall of Famer, and he's again considered one of the greatest cricketers of all time. Um, this set's kind of interesting. I'll show you the back of it. Um, that's it right here. It says 1934 on it, so It's pretty easy, and the backs obviously are all gray. Um, and I think it's a series of 50. So what I found really interesting about this particular set was that when you look at it, it's going to be pitted, and the thing is that pitting you can see it more so on the back of the cards than the front, but um, the pitting is the same pitting that you'll see on the 1936 players golf tennis set, the one I just showed you, and I've actually never seen um, an album for that. I've never seen an album, but I have seen um, albums for the 1938 J Players cricket set, and uh, it's very odd to me. Whether or not one actually exists is beyond me right now. I just have no idea. But it usually would say on the top of the card, the A does adhesive, and B, there's an album that exists. So I've never actually seen one for this set, but this set can be had. Individual cards are seen. Again, I don't see these cards ever at shows, so the easiest way for you is to pick them up on eBay. I'm not a fan of the shipping and handling on eBay, but that's another story for another time. Anyway, um, I do recommend these if you're gonna get um, into cricket, and I recommend that you learn as much as you can through all of these sports and not just cricket. But um, initially I thought cricket was like baseball, not so much. But it is fun, and anyway, so that's that. The last cards I want to show you for today. I know this has been kind of long, guys, so thanks for sticking with me. If you have, um, is actually, oh, I forgot this one too. So I gotta really quickly show you this. Um, this again is a Jockeys card from 1902. This is Sam Lotz. He's in the Hall of Fame, and it's from Lambert and Butler. But what I found really interesting, and I picked this up a long time ago, and it's not in good condition. It's probably poor to fair at best, right? So the funny thing is, here's the back of it, and what it says is reefers in tins of 50. Oh boy, that's interesting. Reefer in with a card. That's wow. Okay, so I'd like to know how that happened. Um, and what a good time. What a good time. Anyway, so that's another set you guys could collect as well. There's two different designs for that particular card. There's a borderless and one with a border. And the ones that I have are borderless. Anyway, so getting back to the last cards I have for you, is right here, soccer, or as they say, football. So football or soccer is probably the sport with the most fans worldwide. Though again, like cricket, it doesn't translate very well into the hobby as terms of money is concerned. Um, And so Stanley Matthews right here. This is from 1935. This is the Will's tobacco set. And he had a very long playing career. Um, and he does have a lot of cards going back from I believe 1934 through 1959 or so. And that's a long career. So um, he's got a lot of cards out there. They can be very expensive, unlike a lot of English cards or cards from Great Britain. His cards can be very expensive. It took me a few times to actually try to grab one um, at the auction level. And so the one thing that I think you guys would really enjoy from particularly like maybe a set like this is the artwork and there's maybe the history too. I do kind of like the history of soccer. I played it as a kid and I really sucked. So um, then you have Dixie Dean as well, another very famous soccer player, and I think both of these guys are in the Hall of Fame as well. I'm still trying to track down who's in the Hall of Fame and who isn't from the 1930s soccer. I know soccer is very popular modern with the modern collectors these days. There and I don't know anything about that, but um, I'm still kind of learning about the vintage side of soccer, and there are a lot of cards out there going back to the 19th century or the early 20th century. Dixie Dean is another guy who does have um, a lot of cards out there. This one happens to be a 1936 Sporting Personalities um, from Gallagher. So you can pick this up and it might cost you $20 or it could cost you $50 or more than that. And same with Stanley Matthews there. Um, the prices are really kind of all over the map when it comes to those guys. But I just wanted to kind of show you guys that there are a lot more different cards that you can collect and that won't leave you hurting in the wallet. Uh, and the one thing is, when I do collect baseball cards, at least vintage baseball cards, like I said before, a lot of that stuff I probably wouldn't be able to collect now just because of the value. Um, and so this is probably a very good alternative for you guys. And the other thing too, before I leave you guys, is that you want to kind of stay diversified, not just in your financial portfolio, but your sporting portfolio as well, your hobby portfolio. And um, one of the YouTubers who kind of reminds me of this is the guy from AIH Sports. Now, I like always to tell you guys about different YouTubers and promote them as well, not just what I'm doing here. So go over to AIH and check out his channel as well. And I'd appreciate it if you guys would give me a like and subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, I really appreciate it and have a good one. Thanks. Bye.